We are live. Yes, just making sure everything is here. Hello, everyone. As you can see in the title, I have a special guest today named Diana Zahir. So we're going to go ahead and invite her. All right. Invite. Oh, hello.
Hi, Caitlainne.
Welcome to our Instagram Live that features you. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for doing this with me. So appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Well, first of all, I want to introduce everyone who Diana Zahir is. So I'm just going to look over at my computer a few times during this whole wonderful interview because I want to get everything right. So we're going to start with the beautiful intro. For more than 30 years, Diana Zahir has been teaching people all over the world about the inner journey. Her healing work combines teachings and practices from many traditions and cultures and has a distinctive mothering style. She uses the phrase inner harbor to describe the sacred space inside of all of us. So everyone, I would love to introduce you to one of my mentors and teachers, Diana Zahir. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Caitlainne.
You're welcome. So we're here for a few different big celebrations, which I love. So first of all, congratulations for completing your second Saturn return.
Mm-hmm. That's quite an accomplishment, isn't it?
Yes,
Thank you,
is.
universe, for letting me be here longer.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Saturn returns in Pisces. So I got to work with you during a lot of that time. So we get to kind of see how this latest album, your newest beautiful creation baby that's out into the world, gets to kind of really be in that beautiful teaching time. And I just love that it debuted Inner Goodness the one day left of Saturn and Pisces. And I was like, wow, look at that. So now we are Saturn and Aries, which means we have a lot of passion, fire, determination, vitality. So I want to really just start out and introduce your newest album, Inner Goodness. So tell me a little bit about, well, anything that you would like anyone to know, and then a little bit about what inner goodness even is.
Mm-hmm. How exciting. What do I talk about first? Well, first, I just want to say how much I appreciate you because you're really a force for good. And I've been so fortunate to have you right by my side for so many of my projects and my planning. So Caitlainne is a treasure, and thank you for being there with me.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's such an adventure. It's so fun.
It's an adventure. I think we both love to see what's next and where the universe is taking us. And that's very much what happens for me in creative work. So this album, which I'm so fortunate to have people like Caitlainne and producers and creatives in all areas help me with the journey. This third album was something that we produced in Boulder, and Sam Dorrance is a brilliant composer and producer and really helped me come up with this kind of ASMR vibe that I wanted to have for these teachings. I never really know what I'm going to say at any time, which is a wonderful part of being me, whether we're in a session with someone or in a group or doing a project, even in writing a book that I'm working on right now. I just sit and let whatever wants to come forth, and it seems to be helpful, so I keep doing this. And for this particular album, there were things that wanted to come forth and I was in the zone, but I think it wasn't until we listened to the recording in the studio, and that was a lot of fun because I had Abigail Septon there with me, who also helps me with so many wonderful things, and Lauren Ruth Ward was visiting and she was helping with her feedback, but I really felt like my breath got taken away, and it hit my heart so much that the teachings in this album are really part of my life's work. This is what I say to people over and over again in sessions and groups and seminars. And so I jokingly said when we were listening to this playback that I want everybody to hear this who's working with me. If you're new and you don't really know yourself, I want you to listen to these songs. If you're having a hard time and you forgot all those tools, which happens to us all the time, everything we know goes out the window when we're in a reaction or we're in pain or crisis or some kind of fear. Those songs are there for you to bring you back to yourself, to remind you of what you already know. That's what the truth does. It mirrors back to us. It's a resonance, and we feel that yes inside. So that ended up being this album, which was really a beautiful experience for me.
Oh, just when you talk about it, it's like, it's very, like I can feel just the energy of groundedness, but also of just like very expansive and being, because I listened to it, the first time I listened to it all the way through, I got my little eye pillow, my noise canceling headphones, I had my crystals. I was like, I'm ready. I want the full experience. So the first time I did that and I just allowed and received, what that is like, of like, it is safe to be here. It is safe to receive that inner goodness. Especially with what is going on with the world today, every day, all the time. And as life moves forward, how do we continue to know that is true, because that is something that is always available and inside and here and everywhere. So for me, it just brought me together. I feel like it just was a moment of like 20 minutes. It's like, that's how that's absolutely how I use your albums as, okay, there's my 20 minutes. This is my energetic hygiene, right? Or just this moment of come back, whether it's during the day or it's at night. And I feel like this one, because you said it had a lot to do with your legacy and really what you do with people for 30 years. You've done this for 30 years. And lucky for us, we have it in 20 minutes. So that must have been a really like, I mean, I know I was there during the creative process and everything, which is understandable if like when legacies come through, you, and especially during your second Saturn return of like, what can I create and put into the world that does have that ripple effect of the teachings. People who are never going to be able to, be with you are with you, through this way. So the way that you're able to then expand your legacy and expand the teachings and expand the really just it's very energetic, it's just very energetic and warm. It's just these really warm, friendly reminders. So,
well, I think there's a lot of passion in it too, talking about going into this next phase of Saturn and Aries and all these things that you know better than me. But I do feel the call of that and the passion of that in any kind of project. And with this one, I think what's coming through is I want people to know what's true. That yes, there's a lot of challenge, there's a lot of distress on the planet right now. I heard this interview with an author saying, yes, the world's on fire. And he was saying, but the world's always been on fire. There hasn't been a time where an author could write something where the world hasn't been on fire. And that doesn't minimize the particular concerns and heartaches and bad feelings that we may be having about what is occurring right now. There's no minimizing that. But there is this coexisting truth that good is here, that goodness is here. And we can see it in our communities, can see it in these moments of miracles that happen when you're talking to a stranger or something starts flowing in your life. So that's a very important reminder. But the other reminder is there is goodness inside of you right
Mm.
now, even if you don't know it, even if you're giving yourself a really hard time, even if you feel so far away from anything in your life that is stabilizing. I am throwing this out as a possibility that I can see it, I can feel it, I know there is goodness in you because you're a human being, and humans have the substance of good inside. And
Mm.
so feeling that reflection, hearing this music that's very holding and expansive, but warm and reassuring, and hearing the words that are coming through, or maybe there's a mothering quality to my voice. Whatever it is that clicks for people, there's a truth here that is very powerful. It's
Mm.
not a power over anything or anyone. It is just this quality of power of truth.
Mm. Do you feel like you almost also remind people like the power, their power, like as like
100%.
there's a yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we can go into any different view of teachings, but whether we're talking about goodness or power or the nature of reality, we can feel it in ourselves. We can feel it in each other because we're each this little unique spot in time and space that the universe wants to come through. But because we're all interconnected, we're reflecting this truth back to each other. We can also reflect the darker side of things, which is part of what is so terrifying right now. But that's one view. Another
Mm.
view is I see the good in you, or I see the potential in you, or what happens when the environment, whatever that is, if it's a group or a community or just you and your noise canceling headphones, that's an environment, right? If I'm with
Mm.
goodness, if I'm with this holding field of love and support and truth, what does it feel like to be me? So
Mm.
we're in this little individual body and we're all interconnected. And wherever we are in that moment, that's great. You might be feeling this little spot called you, listening to this album or being in a nourishing environment with others, or you might feel the vastness of all. And we kind of swim back and forth between them.
Mm. What a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And also
Yeah.
what a big
Wow.
reminder of like, wonder what opens for people, you know? I know for me, it's just helped me continue
Mm-hmm.
because I've been working with you since 2020. It was literally like as soon as I was let go from my job, everything started to shut down. It was like, what is happening? And then it was like just this moment of, for me, when I look back, I'm like, wow, that was very divine. Like, and I know you did that for many artists and many people. So you did this at the same time. So it became like, mentor, teacher, next level when everyone was like, I need a teacher. What's going on? Where should I focus? Like, what should I be practicing as a human being right now during this time where maybe it's like a time where it's easy to forget, you know? And there's no blame in that. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah. It's like when you go to you go somewhere and you get refreshed. It's like that, you know. But you can literally have that reconnect or feeling or realignment, whatever people want to, call it, as a practice or as a focus point too during times of like not sure what's going on. So why don't I just like come to my inner goodness just a little 20 minutes a day, just remind myself like, okay. And I actually wanted to go through the songs because the first one, the independent goodness inside of you. So actually, I'll just say all of the, because it's a beautiful story. Independent goodness inside of you. It's safe to go within is the second song. A new kind of caring is the third song. Growing ourselves up is the fourth song. And sharing our good is the fifth song. So as a journey, like as an inner journey, Tell me a little bit about those titles. Like what was your hope for us to experience, especially with the 30 years of teachings that you do? I know it went to another level during COVID because you were like booked. You were booked beyond booked and still are. But now, and then adding that element of what can I kind of bring into this beautiful creation and into this journey of for this beautiful baby and her goodness.
Mm-hmm. You're so good at setting this up, Caitlainne, with all these questions and connections.
Thank you.
So
Oh,
I
good.
think I want to answer from really far back because we're always zooming back in our work to see the big global vision here, the biggest landscape we can, and then to look at the individual pieces of the puzzle. I think that we forget all the time about who we really are. And I think many times we don't appreciate what it means to be a human being or to have a human life and the potential of that. So whether there was a big opportunity in COVID or with all of these things in our lives and in society and in the world that are very disturbing, and we want to always make sure we're as safe as we can be physically, emotionally, mentally. There's this opening that can happen, right? Whether it feels like we're cracked open or gradually softened to an opening, there's more space to understand, to experience. What does that mean in my life to be a human being? That I can have the kindness to forget things and come back. I can grow my skills. I can learn more tools. I can have different views. I can experience genuine community. There's so many ways we can do that. I think when we're looking at these titles of the album, I wanted people to go on a little journey with me and see that a lot of the beliefs we have, a lot of the resistance we have to seeing our own goodness come from our histories. And of course, that's part of having a human life. We all have histories. We were all raised by people who had really good intentions and probably love us so much more than we can even imagine. But we ended up with a lot of baggage too. And so this baggage keeps us from becoming friends with ourselves. So this is a very gentle invitation, but it's actually very compelling and brave to consider there's good in me because it means I'm going into a different gear in myself than my historical grooves that help me feel safe and tell me who I am. But if I'm actually a person who has goodness inside and I start taking that inner adventure a little bit, we can go through all these stops on the map that are outlined in the album. But I think the last song is really the kicker here because there's a strong belief that if I start noticing the goodness in me or visiting me, that I'll become selfish or a narcissist or I won't share any of these things that society may say or people in our family said. But the truth is, if I start feeling all this good inside, it's going to be what comes out of me for everyone, for the people in my life. We can't help but share what's inside. There's a lot more to say about that, but I think that's enough for this conversation. And I think any of the albums that we've done, so the second one had to do with friendship of the heart.
Heart friendship.
Right? That's even more of a direct visit to the heart, which again, really brave, very much a trailblazer in our families. If my parents and my grandparents didn't know how to be friends with their own hearts, we're really looking to do something new that is an antidote to the loneliness we all feel, to the judgment that we have inside. This is a new kind of nourishment like a new kind of food. And
Mm.
the first album that I did, over the
Mm-hmm.
counter meditation with the wonderful Lincoln Parrish, this had very specific parts of our human experience that are really tricky.
Mm.
And so these are
Mm-hmm.
like little mini retreats or little mini medicine moments. Like, well, what if I'm afraid? Or what if I'm in a reaction?
Mm.
Or what if my critical voice is so loud? Or what if I want to understand the mystery and I don't know how to do that? So I think all of these albums are trying to give us little ways to have companionship,
Mm.
to have a safe
Mm.
holding field,
Mm-hmm.
and to go within and see what's in there under the history. Maybe the first stop is
Mm.
history. So we need
Yeah.
a lot of support and companionship to say, oh, I got you. But
Mm.
this doesn't have to be some excavation, right? I think that's
Mm.
part of
Mm.
what
Yeah,
we're
tell me more about
doing,
that.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think, again, this is very fortunate that we have a human life, that we're on a planet that has access to so many teachings. And yeah,
Mm.
it's an imperfect planet, but look what else is here. We can learn, we can grow, we can do things that our ancestors never had access
Mm.
to. You can learn about psychology, you can learn about spirituality, you can have different religious pursuits, you can have creative activities. There's an abundance here
Mm.
of things you can learn that resonate with you. And you're the only one who knows what.
Oh no. Can you hear me? For some reason the is like right
Is
when you're
it
saying
back?
that. I was like, ah!
I
I was
think
like,
I
you
got
guys.
mad.
Oh, there we
My
go. Okay.
hands were going too
Oh,
fast.
okay.
It gave me a
Okay.
little message. Okay. The Italian in me, right? Um, I was saying how it's a great blessing to
Mm.
be on a planet with a lot of bad things, I know, but there's a lot of good here. We can learn so much. We can
Mm.
learn in ways that not only lifts up the energetic frequency and the interior intelligence of what it means to be a human being, but we can do things that heal our families.
Mm.
Right? And you can make a choice based on what feels resonant inside of you.
Mm.
You're the only one who knows what feels like a yes. We can learn
Mm.
to hear that yes. And some of the yeses might be for an approach that's very practical and precise and gets to the heart of the matter very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
There are many traditions that do that. And some
Mm.
traditions are softer. Maybe they're slower, or maybe they're giving us a certain kind of safe space
Mm.
to be in a way we never got to be before.
Mm.
So we can discover what feels like the right approach for my journey or the season of my journey. It's really so fortunate that we have access to all of these teachings. Even on Instagram or, any social media platform, we don't have to go into a library and
Right.
immerse. We don't have to go to a
Mm.
retreat. But all of those things are great things to do
Mm.
if they resonate with us. The
So it sounds like there's more accessibility
Oh my
to
goodness,
the like the teachings
I'm
themselves. It's like
not sure there's ever been so much
mm.
accessibility, which can be a little
I was about
overwhelming.
to say, what would you say to those people who like are ADHD, where
Mhm,
there's so much to choose from? How do I know it's the yes? And I'm interested in so
mhm,
much. Like
mhm,
people who really expand a lot within
mhm,
that expansion
mhm,
period or that time in their
mhm,
lives. Like how do you work with someone like that, or what
mhm,
comes up for you?
mhm. Yeah, I think that we want to appreciate all kinds of learners. Some learners are really focused and one pointed, and some like ADHD or, different creative, visual, spatial artists. I think of
It's
them as
like
the starry night
I was like,
sky
how did you work with
learners.
me?
I think we have to be really patient. I
Mm.
think having someone who is sitting with us who can really show up and listen and witness helps that soften and kind of reach a slower pace.
Mm.
And when we're really sitting with someone and there's acceptance of all that is, it's a priority that can kind of show up, right?
Mm.
There's a wonderful spiritual teacher named Adyashanti that a lot of people really enjoy, and he has all these sayings, and one of them is that the most important thing is the most important thing, right?
Mm.
And whatever that is, if we can just sit with all of it and let things relax, usually there's a beginning or an arising of the thing that wants our attention first. And then
Mm.
we could go there. And then maybe that gets some satisfaction or some safety. And then something else will show up. So
Mm.
learning to be with, learning to allow, it tends to have its own rhythm. And that's been my experience, is that people really need to be listened to
Mm.
and feel our patience and our interest. And then the most important thing will show up.
Mm. Mm. Is that kind of what you are helping people learn to do? Is like, it's like if you, with all the people that you've talked to for so many years of like, what's the main thing? It's just, it sounds like that's like step one of like, no matter what is happening or no matter what's going on, how can we shift the rhythm or like, make the pace change to just really create an opening for the priority to appear, because it sounds like the priority happens if you allow this space or this place to be within. Did I catch that?
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think for me, that would be more like step 3 or 4. I think step 1 would be you're safe and you matter. And sometimes we need to hang out in step 1 for a while
Oh
because a
yeah.
lot of people might not feel safe right now and they might not know that they matter. So we just stay there as long as we need to stay there.
Were you always like this? Like, you were able to just be with, or did you have a time in your life where you're like, like, how do you stay with? And then there was like kind of a moment or a practice or something that that showed itself to you in a way, or is this just how you are, how you've always kind of been?
I think the answer is yes to both. I think I grew up in kind of an extraordinary environment that planted a lot of seed that have ripened pretty early, which was very lucky. And there was a lot of connection with people who really valued presence and love. And I also saw energy as a child. So I think I've always felt and known there's more going on than just the physical dimension, although it's very important that we learn to function in the physical dimension. I mean, I can remember being a teenager and feeling impatient and things happening that were hard to be with, of course.
Yeah.
But I entered a spiritual school really early when I was 23 and spent 15 years there, which was life-changing. And then got to live all over the world and study with other teachers. But I think it all kind of clicked and fell into place in my early 20s when I could sense what was kind of missing to me in my experience, that there were amazing teachings here. And again, I just so beyond grateful. We have access to so many views and ways of experiencing reality and development. But I think there was a real lack of this mothering holding field in some of these traditions, and it wasn't some kind of academic conclusion I came to. It was more that I watched myself start to become that energetically, just to fill
Cool.
in the gap in a way.
I was about to say, that's cool.
That's
Ooh.
fun. And I'm sure there are others doing the same as me. It's
because there is that like gap, or there is something that feels like missing, or
I think in many of our lives, that has been a confronting part of our growing up time throughout the generations. Not that we're pointing fingers at one generation, because it's just repeating itself throughout time. I think the society is missing that mothering gap, and maybe we could even say the world, if we're talking about the cosmos or the planet, that mothering is wanting to come in more. So thank goodness there are a lot of helpers on the planet. I feel like, maybe I'm a delegate here. There are a lot of us. And I just happen to be a mothering energy delegate. But that started becoming in me, which is a great thing for my life, for direction. But also I think that force mothered me internally.
Ooh. Can you tell me more about that? I'm like, ooh, say more.
Well, I mean, I think that is probably our experience, a lot of us, that we want to work with teachers or therapists or counselors, all these different helpers and healers who not only know things, but they embody them. It's great to have a lot of knowledge, but we want to feel the transmission from the person that we're learning with. And I think that was a way something took place in me where I got to first go on that journey with myself with the mothering energy, and then it started moving out of me as an opportunity to work with others. But I don't think I would feel comfortable doing it if I didn't already have that happening in me with myself.
Well, yes, you are in your integrity. You're a practitioner at headquarters. What did you say? Orders from headquarters.
Orders from headquarters.
When
Whatever
you
that
first said
means.
that, I was like, I love that. That's hilarious.
Well, I think we can. It sounds a little woo-woo, but I think it's actually very practical and tangible when we have an inner relationship with the life force, with the divine, or whatever our words are, or the symbols or the representations that are very intimate to each of us. This is an alive relationship, just as alive as the external relationship. And a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. It sounds like you also introduce people, unless they're already kind of there, to a friendly universe. Like, I feel like there is, because I feel like there's, a little bit of that kind of happens sometimes, whether it's conditioning or, the trauma or whatever. It's like, how can I create that friendliness in the universe too? Like, walking down the street and a butterfly does appear, and it's like, wow, a butterfly. Like, and like feeling into that goodness, bringing it back to inner goodness, but bringing it back to that, like, just that, why else would be a human on this planet doing a thing for only a certain amount of time, and somehow it all kind of works out the way it's supposed to work out on this, plan, or, whatever, kind of whatever anyone really believes. But what a great way to start to be reminded, it's safe to be here internally. Like, you are safe to be here. You matter. And there's a friendly universe around you. So, because I do also feel like, it can feel like, okay, I'm I'm safe and I matter. And then it's like you swipe your phone, and you're like, oh my God. And then it's like, what a practice. Or just like, whew, all right. Which is also why I love how it's like, especially this last album, 20 minutes. I was like, ooh, that's like just the right amount of time, of like just committing or like devoting that to yourself, of like, can I give myself that nourishment of I'm safe, I matter, here I am with this beautiful, friendly universe. Like I just get to expand. I get to be myself. I get to be friends with myself. This is amazing. Love this. Like, just like getting that pep talk in this beautiful mother way, which of course, that's like, we won't go down this route. That's creation. And, how could you, if that's a big missing piece of like the creation part of like the mother, how that energy just can be, how it's been, and I love what you said about we're not blaming any generations. It's really just like, it just keeps being played out in different patterns. And there was a part of me that I was like, I don't know how long ago we actually said that. Cause I was like, don't forget. But there's something that you said in, I don't remember which interview, but you really felt for, when people were coming to you during the pandemic, like the millennials and Gen Z, there was like this hopelessness that like you could not stand. Like you were just like, no, the youth cannot feel, no, like there's something in you that I felt was deeper, in that teacher, in that knowing, and, you being on the planet longer, and also just calling back to like when you did your spiritual school, like you were in the library, like you also lived in India, you lived all over the world. So you also got like in person and, culturally, but you also had to like go about it in what would be a very, nostalgic way, because there were no devices, or not that many, out there. I'm sure getting the information, it was teacher to teacher. Like in order to actually have a teacher give it to a student, there has to be like some sort of like embodiment happening. So then there's the translation or the practice, and what an amazing place that you actually really got to be in that, like knowing that's how it works. So then you can do that with your students, regardless of the devices and, all the things that are happening in the world. It's like very much. So I do feel even more now that we're talking about this, why inner goodness would be so much of like that legacy and that transmission of like, how to do that, like, and you are doing that, so it's not even like, how you are doing it. So that's, and then you're teaching, how to have access and to do it too. So I know I just like jumped around a little bit because I was like, and then that, and then that, and then that, and that.
So fun.
But when it comes to the Saturn and Aries situation, I really do feel like this album feels very, helping out that warrior spirit, because Aries is very, it's the warrior, but it's also about like, it can be a very masculine energy, but not in the way of like male, female sort of thing. It's just like, I don't know which side of the brain, right? It's like logical numbers, stats, let's go, like, this, commander in chief. So I do feel, and there's this nice balance that you always do bring to the table. But I think this is like this nourishment for that warrior spirit of like because we kind of have to be, in order to like be in the world, like you have to have your form on, you got to have like, we're human beings, if you're in the corporate world, you're doing the thing, or if you're in, or you're a mom, or you're, parent, or, you're being spread thin, wherever we all are at, right? Of like all the expectations, all the things that are happening. So how do we just kind of like, okay, like come back to this place? And so that just kind of came through of like, what a great thing that this was born on the last day of Saturn and Pisces. And I feel very much of that, like, oh yeah, this is like, hey, 20 minutes. We got it all in there. This is like, all of it. And the journey that you said at the end, it's sharing our good, like sharing our good. So it's already like, no worries about like how it's perceived, or, oh, you're healing, or, oh, like, all this stuff. It's about you know, being true to that goodness of knowing, yeah, if I'm in my goodness and like, you know, I'm actually sharing it and like, it's all good and moving on, you know, don't have to be, you know, merging or like too attached to the thing. We just keep moving, you know, do the thing, all due respect, but also like being in our empathy at the same time. So that like little Saturn and Aries was like, ooh, this is kind of like a very like nourishing to that like warrior spirit that really is, it has to be in all of us right now. It's just kind of how things are happening, but how do you take care of that? Like, how do you actually just like, okay, it's like the nice mom being like, okay, honey, you have to take a 20-minute nap. You're grumpy. I feel that you're getting a little prickly. Do you notice that? Oh, your inner story is like reacting. And that brings me to your over-the-counter meditations. For those of you who haven't listened or know the journey, I just want to read through the titles because I feel like it really is kind of like an overview of what you do, of like the step one that you were saying. How's your fear? Lullaby, change, Judgment City, you're not alone, I see you, your side of the street, reactions, safe harbor, the mystery. So those are a whole hand. That was only 38 minutes. Like part of me is just like, I listen to this one, especially if I'm ever, I save this one for like on flights. Cause I feel like sometimes I just want to like listen to something just really calming in between, you know, try to like relax or whatever. So, and then I wanted to just also read through Heart Friendship because Heart Friendship actually just came out on February 1st. So this was also like the right before Inner Goodness was like, okay, we need these two as like the pillars, right? To then, you know, put the inner goodness to hold the whole thing, you know, for what it is. I know there will be more, but especially these three. So the Heart Friendship is inner company, feeling center, true connection, belong within, and something bigger. And that one is 13 minutes. So it's also this just beautiful invitation of like, because I'm sure there's a part of us that go, I want to like avoid it. I want to avoid finding out what's in there, you know? Oh, what if I'm, you know, what if my goodness is a little deep, I got to dig a little deeper. I got to go under a little bit more baggage or, you know, how do I even know, you know, these questions. So I feel like you've given opportunities of like, just be with me for 13 minutes, right? All right. Let's be here in 20 minutes and then be here for 38 minutes. So you really are just creating this space for a really, what I know and believe to be true, like an actual significant amount of time of like really being with this, what you said was like teaching you inside of you and came through you and you embodied the teaching. And this is how a lot of, you know, this is how creatives, you know, work, you know, and any sense of the world of like, you know, you're writing a song, you're writing a book, you know, you're creating, anything really, just being in that mode and then allowing it to like come through with the, with all of the information as simply and as like, here you go. Like here's the, let's see, Heart Friendship sounds good. Yeah, let's try some. Oh, you know what? Some inner goodness sounds good. So so it feels like very much of a nourishment for that warrior spirit that just has to continue, especially during times of change, or disruption, or just true just terror or tragedy. And we won't get into this, but you were very much with me during my mom's death. So to know as you being my mentor and teacher, also walking through being with someone during the process of dying and then being with the family, you know, and like how to just really be here and it's like, and it will all be okay. Like sounds so, you know, cliche and, whatever. But in that moment, I needed that to just exist a little bit, even if it was a little like, I just need a little bit of that right now, So yeah. Oh, that makes me so grateful, because I will say you really do, the way sometimes it very much like is who you are. This is who I know you to be. And seeing you being able to like get these beautiful creations out into the world to share them with other people, I'm just like, and in this way, like, boom, you can save it. You can listen to it anytime. I almost imagined myself, I was like, oh my gosh, New York Caitlainne, New York City Caitlainne, just straight out of college, doing all these things. I was like, wow, I would have been listening to your stuff on the subway all the time to just keep my nervous system. I didn't realize that was a thing. Like, I don't think we do until we learn, what the nervous system, what the regulation is, or like how you help yourself. But that is also something of just popping that in. And I would have been like, yep, all these people around, it's fine. Oh, the train is underground and we're underwater right now. We have to wait for 10 minutes and it's really hot and everyone's smushed in here. No problem. Like, and I realized I was by myself in a lot of those moments of like, okay, just breathe and be here. And it's like, it is the core teaching that I feel like kind of comes through people when you say priority, like bringing it back to the priority moment. It just kind of appears and you're like, oh, look at that. Like, I know what to do. Here I am. Like, just breathe. It will, next step. And that present moment, feeling and how you work with it. So I would have been listening when I go to New York. I'll already have it saved. But I was like, wow, what a wonderful way to make it so accessible and available, in all these different ways. Because I mean, we don't have to get into this either, but like, it is a lot of like, if you're spiritual, if like you can, go do all the things, or becoming I don't know, like just like more in tune with yourself means you have to leave. Like, you have to go to the jungle, or you have to go somewhere that is not your home, or you have to, and sometimes that's totally true, because that is, you have to like leave to like be dipped in some, clear, water and, be with the jungle and then come back. But I feel like it's also accessible of like, and you can also access it at home, and you are traveling. What a cool way to know, like, you actually are traveling and you are going on retreat and you are sensing into that place, and you do have community in just like a very visceral, energetic way. So that was also where I was like, oh my gosh, Saturn and Aries is so excited. You got all three done. Perfect. Now, everybody, when you're feeling like, what the heck, I need to just like come back to myself. It's like, well, what would you like in 13 minutes, 20 minutes, or 38 minutes? What's on the menu today? How about one song? Which one? True Connection. Play. Just like, and I feel like your titles do that too, where it's very like, what am I looking for? What am I subconsciously looking for? What am I scrolling for? And even the more inner work that we do, or that inner awareness that we have, we know what we're looking for, and then we're like seeing it. We're like, oh God, I know what I'm looking for. And then you're like, now what? Because then you watch yourself looking for it in, whatever it is. Let's just say it's a phone and scrolling, and you're like, oh, I'm aware that I'm not scrolling and I'm not sitting patiently with that thing, or like, with myself, or, whatever. I see what's going on. I also use it in like a palate cleanser energetically too. When I'm like scrolling too much on my phone, I'm like, I just need to listen to like 5 minutes of Diana telling me like, be here. Be with your feeling center.
It's so beautiful watching you talk, Caitlainne, because I not only appreciate you're summarizing everything so beautifully and expressing it from your experience, but you're really embodying this modern day warrior, which I think is what you're saying. We're all being invited into for this next phase. And yes, a modern day warrior needs teachings like this, or other teachings that resonate, easily accessible in your device. on your music platform, saved in some place that you like to go, in your phone, in your computer, where you can have your cave time, you can have your reboot. This is practical. This is wise, right? And linking that back to what you were saying about this ultimate invitation of being a human, to consider the universe has my back. I don't have to agree with that. Maybe I've had miracle moments where that feels true. Maybe that feels so far away from me right now because I'm having a really hard time. And I think that's part of being a warrior, is learning to see what's true for us. And then considering maybe something else is true, but I don't have to give up this aliveness and this energy I have in the warrior position about what's happening right now. So yes, people can say the universe has your back, but if that feels so untrue right now, then that's where we go. Right? We don't want to try to overpower our aliveness. Wherever the aliveness is, be with that. Find your companions. See if you can feel safe enough and heard and seen and known enough where you're willing to consider something else might be true, but we're not trying to override you. We're trying to see where do I end up going in myself if I have all of my support and I consider something else. So we keep empowering the warrior with more and more nourishment and more things that could potentially resonate, but we want to help grow these warriors up.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Do you want to say a little bit more about that? Because that kind of was like what I was, that hopelessness that you never really answered, but like that you were feeling that like we need to just grow up these warriors, or,
Well,
the youth.
In future conversations, maybe you and I can talk about some of these details, like the gift of having a life and how we feel about leaving the planet. There are all these things that we don't talk about. We celebrate birth because it's such an incredible miracle to see somebody arrive. And then we have a time to live here, which again, how incredible to learn what could happen while we're here. What are the possibilities? What are the ways we feel dreams and wishes and we feel called to explore things? But we don't talk very much about the exit, and we are all going to exit one day, hopefully not for a very long time. But this mystery of living and dying, this is a huge part of empowering and educating the life force in you and me to see how we can feel the good, how the good can come to know itself, how it can take root and flourish, and how whatever we want to call the historical remnants or the things that actually don't feel true for me anymore, but they're here and they keep recycling and they keep interrupting me.
Interesting.
Right? So having a way to understand what is going on inside of me, what the old operating system, what are some new infusions for this operating system, what's an upgraded operating system. These are all possibilities if that feels interesting for us. And if that's not where we are right now, we're more in world of form, we're needing to do worldly things and just do them as well as we can. That's beautiful. I think whatever we find out when we learn to visit ourselves and hear ourselves and connect with ourselves, that's valuable. So this process of being in the present moment, learning some of these things that are outlined as album songs and, however else we try to get these things out in the world, we're trying to learn how to be here. in the safest, kindest, wisest ways we can. And we all have a lot more in common than we realize. We're all just trying to learn how to be here. But there are a lot of messages and historical shaping that we've all had where we don't really feel like we actually get to be here. We're kind of recycling things that belong to other people. And again, lots of compassion for that, because that's part of a human life. So I think we get to keep learning. What does it feel like to be me? And maybe I just do that in my own privacy right now because it feels too vulnerable. But the more time I spend hearing myself and feeling myself and knowing myself, I do gain confidence. Maybe I have more clarity. I feel more courage to learn something new or to share something that feels true for me. So we just keep learning how to grow up.
Oh, when you were talking, I was like, like teary. I feel like there's also something that just comes closer when you speak of like,
It's
just
okay.
that
We don't know how to
heart.
do this.
Yeah.
Nobody taught that to us, not because they were withholding something. They just didn't know. We're all really trying to figure out how to be here. And then maybe we can learn some things that make it feel easier and more alive and more connected to this possibility that the universe has our back. But we don't have to agree with that.
Very the Aries energy of the vitality and like live your life, right? Like you have a life, and I think I know you cover this in your teachings, but when we leave, when we don't have the body, that needs that to hold the spirit, that container of like, okay, and it's like, wow, this really is it. This is the time that we have. So what if like we just see this, because I always, now that I work with astrology, it really helps me see time in this. It's a very dynamic way, but also, yes, it can be confronting, but it can also be just like really kind in those moments of like, what if you didn't have to figure it all out right now and you could just like go take a nap, would you feel better? And then like, we'll get back to it. But like first take that quick, and just how much that is like, because you have a human body and you are human, and to remember that is what's really holding us all together. Because I do feel like there's a lot of like, it's all up here, like a lot of mind stuff, but I feel like there's something within your teachings that embodies, where it feels very beyond the body. That is like just, and that is the mothering. If we were actually in a womb, we were in this place of like, and like, I mean, you had all the things. How do you actually create that feeling, intentionally, or just can you create? We can all create that feeling for ourselves. I see it as the aura, like when you start to just really be more with the knowing of like you are beyond the human body, like you have energy that speaks for itself, but you also have then the energy that speaks for itself, like your literal voice, like, your body, like the practical things of like everyday life, and how can we be with both of those things, and also learn when, that one of them needs a little bit more nourishment or attention, or, how can that kind of come through. I also really want to spotlight Marina's beautiful artwork for the Judgment City and for Lullaby, because I feel like the animations also another embodiment. It just feels like when you watch things transform, and I think that's what I'm feeling right now. It's like when people talk about like transformation and like the caterpillar becomes a butterfly, like it can feel so like, yeah, but like what's the feeling, like what am I looking for, that practical logical part of us that is like, listen, if I don't have time to like be on the mountaintop or like or go to the faraway place for years and like figure it all out. Like, how do I do it in this life that I have, you know, with this time that I want to create, because I want to bring more of that, you know, energy into my life. But there are more ways to do that. You know, there are all of these ways to do that. So I feel like, and so yeah, so definitely if people have not checked out the animations,
On YouTube.
the transformations on YouTube, it just things become like, talk about another story and a journey, because the two of you really sit down and, you know, all the people that you work with also are affected by the, like, we're all not affected, I guess, like, but yeah, but maybe like we're all a part of that system closely. So it also moves through us and we learn.
It's each person's expression of the work. I mean, most of the people who are helping are doing their own inner work. So it's gorgeous to see how that unique expression of the universe comes through them. But maybe I could say this as our final comment, that keeping it simple, whatever that feels like for each of us, I think that's a huge key right now. That listening to a song on an album or watching Marina Loeb's animations on YouTube, whatever doorway we can open in the kindest, safest way, and it's a simple entrance into something, I think this achieves these qualities we're talking about of relaxation and potential, and our warrior spirit can be there, making sure that nothing's going too quickly, or we're having some kind of situation that needs the extreme warrior spirit. We're just really checking all of this out step by step, considering this, considering that. We can integrate things more gently, more easily. We can grow this capacity to look and see if we're safe, to feel if something is resonant. So I think that's another thing that really comes through in not only our conversation, the excitement about things, but we're also sharing really simple transmissions. And we're doing that in the album. We're doing that in our YouTubes, because we want people to have choice. We want to invite in the largest number of people who might be curious about how they can connect with themselves. In this life, at this time, on this planet, it really does fortify us for whatever we're facing, if we get this chance to try something simple and nourishing.
I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing so much nourishment with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
This was a juicy one. Oh man, I'm like, ooh, and we've been talking for an hour. Perfect. Well, I definitely encourage everyone to go over and follow Diana, follow her journey, but also listen to the album Inner Goodness. Check out her friendship as well, and over-the-counter meditations. You have your YouTube channel. And so many things are coming. Your book in the future. So we get all this to get us to the book.
Thank you, Caitlainne, for your time.
Thank you so much. Of course. We will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.